The stars were quiet that night. The Valoran homeworld drifted in peace, its silver oceans shining under the glow of 3 moons. Cities stretched across the surface like jewels of light, proud towers touching the skies, people walking without fear. For centuries, the Valorans had trusted the Galactic Council. They believed the Council's word was unbreakable. They believed their alliance would keep them safe. The Valoran people had given everything to join the Great Council. They had shared their knowledge, their trade, their fleets. In return, they were promised protection. If war ever came, the Council swore they would stand together. That promise became the shield of Valoran pride. No one thought betrayal could ever come. No one thought the Council would turn their weapons against the very world they had sworn to defend. But in the black silence, beyond the moons, ships moved. Not Valoran ships, not allies. The banners of the Council fleets glowed cold in the dark. Battle cruisers, carriers and destroyers spread like steel shadows across the stars. Their guns were ready. Their engines hummed like the low growl of predators, waiting to strike. The first warning came too late. At dawn, the sky above the Valoran capital city opened in fire. Red beams cut through the atmosphere, striking towers and streets. Whole districts collapsed in seconds. People screamed as the ground shook. Children ran, but there was no safety. One blast, then another, then another. Within minutes, the shining city was nothing but flame and smoke. The Valorans looked up, waiting, to see Council ships rushing to their rescue. They waited for help, but no help came. Instead, the voices of their leaders broke across the planetary network. "The Council fleets are firing on us," one commander shouted, his voice filled with disbelief. "This is no mistake. They are not here to protect us. They are here to destroy us." The truth spread like poison through every home, every bunker, every shelter. The Galactic Council had betrayed them. In orbit, Valoran defense ships launched in desperation. Frigates and small cruisers surged forward, engines burning. Blue. They opened fire against the massive Council fleet. Railguns flashed, missiles streaked across the void, but the defenders were too few. The Council ships moved in perfect formation, their weapons precise and merciless. Valoran ships exploded one by one, their crews screaming into silence. On the surface, the war grew worse. Orbital strikes tore holes in continents. Firestorms swept across plains and mountains. Valoran soldiers tried to fight back, but against the orbital bombardment, their courage meant nothing. Tanks melted under the heat of plasma blasts. Bunkers cracked open like shells. Whole divisions disappeared in seconds. In one underground base, a Valoran officer slammed his fist against the table. His fur was soaked with sweat, his eyes full of despair. "Why?" he asked, voice shaking. "We gave them everything. We trusted them. Why would they betray us?" No one answered. No one could. The Council sent no message, no reason, no warning. They came only with fire. Across the planet, survivors fled into caves, tunnels, and broken ruins. Families held each other as the skies burned red. The proud Valoran race was being erased, not by enemies they had fought before, but by the very rulers they once called friends. Among the chaos, a desperate signal was prepared. Engineers worked quickly in a hidden bunker, wires sparking, consoles shaking with every bombardment. The signal was not for their people. It was for the only allies they believed might still stand for honor. "Send it to Earth," one engineer whispered, his claws trembling. "If anyone will hear us, it will be them." The transmission pulsed into space, breaking through static, carrying images of the destruction. It carried the sound of crying children, the roar of collapsing cities, the final words of dying soldiers. It was not just a message. It was a plea. "Humans of Earth," the voice said, broken by static. "We are betrayed. The Council has turned against us. They burn our homes. They kill our families. We cannot survive alone. If honor still means something, if friendship still means something, hear us. Do not let us die forgotten." The message repeated again and again as the bunker finally fell silent under a blast from orbit. The bunker collapsed. The signal kept traveling, racing into the void, searching for ears that would listen. Far away, across the gulf of stars, Earth would hear, and Earth would answer. The Galactic Council believed the Valorans would fall quietly, erased in silence. They believed Earth would watch, afraid, unwilling to risk its own fleets against the might of the Council. But they were wrong. For in the moment, Valoran cities fell. In the moment their cries echoed through the stars. Something woke deep within the hearts of humanity. It was not fear, it was not hesitation, it was fury. And when Earth's fury is awakened, no council, no empire, no fleet can hide from it. The signal reached Earth after weeks of silent travel through deep space. At first, it was nothing but broken sound, a faint echo carried across the void. But the satellites caught it, the great relay stations strengthened it, and soon the images appeared. Valoran cities burning, towers crumbling into ash, families screaming in firelight, ships exploding in black skies, and that single voice torn apart by static begging for help. In the War Command Hall beneath New Geneva, the leaders of Earth gathered. Admirals in dark uniforms stood around the long table. Generals, diplomats and council members watched the trembling screen in silence. No one moved. No one breathed. The images ended. The signal cut into static. For a long moment, the only sound was the hum of the lights above. Then Admiral Harrow spoke. His voice was low, calm, but filled with iron. The Council slaughtered Valoran, our allies, our friends. They believed Earth would stay silent. He raised his eyes, and in them burned a cold fire. They were wrong. Around the table, the silence broke into anger. One general slammed his fist on the steel surface. "We cannot fight the Council. Their fleets outnumber us 10-1. Numbers do not win wars," Harrow replied. His voice was like a blade cutting through doubt. "Will wins wars. The Valorans trusted us. They died calling for us. If we turn our backs now, then humanity is nothing but cowards hiding behind empty walls." Another admiral leaned forward. "And if we strike, if we commit our fleet, then the Council will turn their eyes on Earth. They will bring their fire here. Millions will die." Harrow's expression did not change. "Then let them come. Let them see what happens when they betray humanity's trust. We are not Valoran. We are not weak. We are Earth." The room trembled with his words. In the silence that followed, the Council of Earth made its choice. Not through votes, not through fear, but through unity. The order was given. Within hours, bases across the planet stirred to life. Shipyards lit up like suns. Engines roared as massive carriers rose from the oceans, water breaking against their armored hulls. Battleships drifted from hidden docks beneath mountains. Frigates and destroyers lined the skies, their engines glowing bright blue. The people of Earth watched as the fleet prepared for war. Millions stood on rooftops, on shorelines, on cities beneath the stars. They raised their fists, they shouted in unison, not for conquest, not for glory, but for vengeance. News screens across the planet replayed the Valoran transmission again and again. Children's cries, cities collapsing, the voice begging Earth not to forget them. Each time more people wept, more people clenched their fists, more people whispered the same promise, never again. Deep within the flagship Iron Resolve, Admiral Harrow stood before his crew. Hundreds of officers lined the hangar, their eyes sharp, their faces pale but unbroken. "Men and women of Earth," Harrow began. His voice echoed against the steel walls. "You have seen what the Council has done. They turned against Valoran. They murdered without reason. They betrayed every code they swore to uphold." He paused, letting the weight of silence fall. "They believe Earth will stay silent. They believe we will cower before their power. They believe we are too weak to fight, but they have made the same mistake every empire makes before it falls." He raised his hand, pointing to the stars beyond the viewports. "They have underestimated us." The crew erupted in a thunder of voices. Boots stamped against the deck, fists rose into the air. The sound shook the ship like a storm. In hidden bases on the moon, Earth's war factories produce weapons faster than ever before. Railgun shells stacked high, plasma batteries locked into place, drone wings fueled and armed. The void itself seemed to hum with the heartbeat of war, and still, in the quiet between the fire and the roar, a shadow of fear remained. The Council fleets were vast. They commanded thousands of ships, billions of soldiers, entire worlds bound by law and fear. Humanity was small in comparison, a single planet with scattered colonies. By logic, Earth should have surrendered, should have bowed its head. But logic had no place here. What the Council did not understand was that humans had lived in struggle since the beginning of time. They had risen from caves, from fire, from wars against themselves. They had faced extinction 100 times and survived. Survival was written into their blood. Defiance was carved into their bones. And now that fury was awake again. The fleet gathered near the outer colonies. Thousands of ships lined the black horizon, their lights burning like stars. War drums of engines shook the void. Crews strapped into battle stations, eyes locked forward. Admiral Harrow stood on the bridge of iron resolve. The message from Valoran still played in his mind. The cries, the fire, the betrayal. He did not smile, he did not weep. He only whispered one promise: justice will be done. The fleet turned toward the stars where the Council ships waited. The hunt had begun. The black sea of space stretched endless, cold, and silent. But silence never lasts when war comes. Earth's fleet moved as one, thousands of ships cutting through the void. Their engines burned blue, leaving long trails like fire across the darkness. The flagship Iron Resolve led the formation, its steel body bristling with railguns and missile bays. Around it, carriers carried swarms of fighters. Destroyers kept tight lines, and frigates darted at the edges like wolves. Ahead, the Council fleet waited. They were larger, older, and confident. Dozens of massive battleships floated in calm formation, their hulls covered with banners of the Council's crest. Their weapons glowed, ready to fire. They did not move, not yet. They believed Earth would hesitate. They believed fear would stop them, but humanity did not slow. On the bridge of Iron Resolve, Admiral Harrow stood tall, his eyes locked on the endless wall of enemy steel. "They think us weak," he said quietly, more to himself than to his crew. "Let them see the truth." The order was given. At once, Earth's fleet shifted into battle lines. Fighters swarmed forward, 1,000 small lights racing toward the dark horizon. Bombers followed close behind, their wings loaded with missiles that gleamed like sharp teeth. Railguns charged across the carriers and destroyers, their magnetic cores humming with deadly power. The void held its breath. Then the first shot came. A Council cruiser opened fire, its plasma cannon blazing bright red. The beam cut across the stars, slamming into an Earth frigate. The ship tore open like paper, flames bursting as the crew vanished in silence. The battle had begun. Earth's answer was merciless. From Iron Resolve, a railgun slug the size of a building tore forward at near-light speed. It struck a Council destroyer head-on. The hull cracked in two, explosions ripping through its spine. The enemy ship split apart, drifting into nothing, and then the sky turned into fire. Missiles streaked in every direction, thousands of trails glowing through the void. Fighters clashed in wild dogfights, twisting and diving between plasma beams. Some burned into ash in seconds, others struck with precision, dropping bombs onto the hulls of battleships. Earth's warships fought with savage discipline. Every shot was planned, every sacrifice calculated. They moved like hunters, circling, cutting, striking at weak points. The Council had numbers, but humans had something sharper: desperation. Admiral Harrow gripped the edge of the command table as reports poured in. "Frigate line holding, but we are losing fast. Carrier Vigilant is hit, she's burning." Through the viewport, Harrow saw the flames of Vigilant drifting. Fighters still poured out of her belly, even as the ship broke apart. The crew gave their last breath to keep the battle alive. "Honor them," Harrow ordered. "Make their deaths mean something. Push the line forward." The human fleet surged with renewed fury. Destroyers cut through enemy screens, unleashing torpedoes into the core of the Council formation. Explosions blossomed in the black like red suns. But the Council was not broken. They answered with overwhelming power. Plasma beams rained down, carving through Earth's lines. A carrier exploded in a blinding flash, taking thousands of human lives in an instant. Another destroyer was sliced apart, its pieces scattering into the void. Still, humanity refused. To break, Captain Mira Voss of the battleship Stormfire barked orders across her bridge. "Forward railguns, lock on target, Council dreadnought nearest to starboard." Her crew obeyed without hesitation. The Stormfire's guns roared, rail slugs tearing across space. They pierced the dreadnought's armor, ripping open its core. Fire consumed the massive vessel, its body folding into itself before vanishing into debris. "Target down!" her crew shouted, voices shaking with triumph. All across the battle, human warships struck blow after blow. Every loss was answered with vengeance. Every wound was returned tenfold. In the chaos, the Council fleet began to falter. Their lines wavered as Earth's tactics unfolded. Humans did not fight like other species. They fought dirty. They fought clever. They fought as if every battle was the last. One squadron of Earth fighters broke formation, diving straight through enemy defenses. They flew low across the hull of a Council battleship, dropping explosives into its engines. The explosion ripped the ship apart from behind, fire spreading across its decks. Another destroyer, too damaged to survive, rammed into a Council carrier. Both ships exploded in a firestorm that lit the black for miles. The tide began to shift. On the bridge of Iron Resolve, Admiral Harrow's voice cut through the chaos. "Hold the line. They think numbers will save them. They forget what it means to fight humans. They forget what it means to fight for vengeance." His crew looked to him, their eyes burning with the same fury. Still, the cost was heavy. Dozens of Earth's ships were gone, thousands of lives lost. But for each ship that fell, 2 Council vessels burned. The balance of power was shifting. With every passing moment, the battle raged for hours, until the black horizon was no longer empty. It was filled with drifting wreckage, shattered ships, and bodies lost to silence. Flames burned across the void, casting light like a cruel sunrise, and still Earth fought on. The Council fleet had not expected this. They had not expected the stubborn defiance, the refusal to surrender, the endless courage of a species they believed small and weak. Now, for the first time in centuries, the Council felt fear, and Admiral Harrow whispered to himself as the Council ships reeled under the assault, "This is only the beginning." The battle burned on, but the Council still believed they would crush humanity. Their fleets were larger, their weapons older and stronger. Even as Earth destroyed ship after ship, the Council commanders thought victory was only a matter of time. But Admiral Harrow had not brought his fleet into open space by chance. He had chosen the battlefield with care. Beyond the fight, a dying star burned faintly, its gravity pulling everything closer. Planets that once circled it were already gone, consumed long ago. Only the star remained, its light weak, its pull strong. It was here that Harrow had set his trap. On the bridge of Iron Resolve, Harrow studied the shifting lines. "Hold position," he ordered. "Do not chase them. Make them chase us." The order seemed strange to some captains. Why stop pressing forward when the enemy was already bleeding? But the fleet obeyed. Earth's ships fell back slowly, firing. As they moved, dragging the Council with them toward the star's deadly pull. Council commanders, filled with arrogance, believed the humans were retreating. They laughed at the idea of Earth's fleet breaking. "Push forward," they commanded. "Finish them. Burn their last ships from the sky." And so the Council advanced, step by step, deeper into the trap. The gravity of the star tugged at their formation. It pulled on their ships, straining engines and warping paths. The Council adjusted their positions, but in doing so, their perfect lines broke apart. Ships drifted closer together, colliding paths, weapons firing less in unison. Harrow's voice was steady. "Now they are blind, now they are clumsy. This is our moment." Across the fleet, hidden orders awakened. Small Earth frigates, silent until now, emerged from the shadows behind asteroids. They cut into the Council's exposed flanks, torpedoes ripping into engines. Enemy cruisers spun helplessly into the star's pull, their hulls glowing before. Breaking apart, fighter wings swept in like vultures, darting between broken lines, planting explosives on battleship hulls. Drones, armed with plasma charges, launched from hidden carriers, swarming across enemy defenses like a storm of fire. The void erupted again, brighter, deadlier. Council commanders shouted in panic. Their fleets tried to regroup, but the star's pull made every movement harder. Ships collided, crashing into each other with silent explosions. Battleships meant to stand in perfect formation now drifted apart, vulnerable and exposed. On the bridge of Stormfire, Captain Mira Voss seized her. "Chance! Target their flagship!" she ordered. Her gunners locked on the massive Council command ship at the center of the chaos. Dozens of Earth warships joined her, railguns charging, missiles loading. Fire! A storm of metal and fire struck the flagship. Explosions tore across its armor. Entire decks collapsed. Fires spread through its systems. Its proud crest burned away in silence. The Council's command structure broke, its orders lost in the storm. Admiral Harrow's eyes hardened. "They are finished. Press the attack." Earth's fleet roared forward. Destroyers swarmed like wolves, biting at crippled cruisers. Battleships hammered the largest targets with railgun salvos that shook the void. Carriers unleashed their last fighters in waves, each pilot diving with the fury of vengeance. One human destroyer, too damaged to survive, launched itself directly into the flank of a Council dreadnought. The impact created an explosion so massive that the dreadnought's hull cracked in half. The sacrifice sent shock through both fleets, but to humans it was a cry of defiance. "We will not stop." The Valorans who had survived the betrayal watched from hidden refugee ships near the edge of the battlefield. Their eyes widened as Earth's fleet fought like demons against the impossible. They whispered prayers not to their gods, but to humanity itself. "They fight for us," one Valoran elder said with tears in his eyes. "They fight when no one else would." Still, the cost was terrible. Human ships burned, crews screamed as plasma fire tore through decks, lives were lost every second. But in every sacrifice, the Council lost more. Every death bought a victory, every wreck opened a path, and slowly the Council began to break. The once proud fleet that had slaughtered Valoran now drifted in shattered silence. Their battleships lay crippled, their carriers burned, their command ship was gone. Fear spread. Through their ranks like disease, ships turned away, retreating into the black. Admiral Harrow stood on the bridge of iron resolve. His voice cut through the silence of his crew. "Do not let them flee. Make them pay for Valoran. Make them remember Earth." The fleet obeyed. Railguns thundered. Missiles chased retreating ships. Fighters tore into engines, ripping them apart one by one. The Council, once untouchable, was now hunted. At last, when the last great explosion faded, the black sea of space was filled with wreckage. Broken hulls drifted like corpses. Fires burned across the void. The star glowed brighter, pulling debris into its hungry light. The battle was over, but victory was heavy. Hundreds of Earth's ships were gone. Tens of thousands of human lives had been lost. The fleet stood scarred, bleeding, but alive. Admiral Harrow closed his eyes for a moment, letting the silence settle. Then he whispered to himself and to the stars. They betrayed Valoran. They thought we would stay silent. Now they know the truth. The galaxy itself had changed. The Council was no longer untouchable. Humanity had made them bleed. Humanity had shown the cost of betrayal, and this was only the first war. The battlefield was silent at last. Where once the Council fleet had stretched like an iron wall across the stars, now there was only wreckage. Ships cracked in half drifted slowly, their fires fading as the cold of space swallowed them. Bodies floated among the ruins, soldiers who would never return home. Earth's fleet hung in the silence, scarred, but standing. The Iron Resolve was covered in wounds, its hull scorched, its weapons blackened from fire. The battleship Stormfire limped with half its decks destroyed. Many destroyers and frigates no longer answered, lost forever to the void. But despite the cost, humanity had not broken. They had done what no other species had dared. They had faced the full might of the Galactic Council, and they had made it. Bleed, on the bridge of Iron Resolve, Admiral Harrow stood tall. His uniform was torn, blood stained his sleeve, but his voice carried with the same steel as before. "Signal to all ships," he said. "Victory is ours. For Valoran. For Earth." The message travelled across the fleet, and though many were too tired to cheer, though many were mourning those who would never return, the words struck deep. They had survived. They had won. Far at the edge of the battlefield, the Valoran refugee ships emerged from hiding. They had watched the battle in silence, praying the humans would succeed, fearing they would fall. Now their eyes widened at the sight of Council wreckage drifting across the stars. On one ship, an elder pressed his hand against the glass viewport. Tears slid down his face. "They did not forget us," he whispered. "When the galaxy betrayed us, Earth stood alone, and Earth answered with fire." Across the refugee fleet, voices rose in mourning and gratitude. Songs of sorrow for the dead mixed with cries of honor for humanity. The Valorans had lost their home, but they had not lost their hope. Meanwhile, news of the battle spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Every relay, every station, every hidden channel carried the same words: the Council attacked Valoran. The Council betrayed, the humans fought, and the humans won. On distant worlds ruled by fear, slaves whispered the story in the shadows. On colonies bound by the Council's laws, quiet rebels spoke of Earth as a spark of defiance. Species who had lived under the Council's iron fist for generations now looked to the stars with new eyes. If humanity could stand, perhaps others could too. But for the Council, the defeat was a wound deeper than blood. Never before had they been challenged in open war. Never before had they lost so much in one battle. Their fleets retreated, broken, humiliated, but not destroyed. And in their hearts, anger burned. On the Council's high world, leaders shouted. In rage, they demanded Earth's punishment. They called for war without end. They swore humanity would be crushed for daring to defy them. Admiral Harrow knew this was not the end. On the quiet bridge of Iron Resolve, he looked at the broken stars beyond the viewport. "This is only the beginning," he said softly. "The Council will return. They will not forgive us. But when they come, we will be ready." His officers nodded, weary but resolute. They knew the cost had only just begun. But none doubted the path they had chosen. Humanity had shown the galaxy its heart, and that heart was iron. In the weeks that followed, Earth buried its dead with honor. Names of the fallen were carved into walls of stone that stretched across New Geneva. Families wept, children saluted, and the world promised that their sacrifices would never be forgotten. Valoran survivors were given shelter on Earth's colonies. They walked broken and grieving, but wherever they went, humans bowed to them with respect. For they were not only survivors, they were proof of why Earth fought. One young Valoran soldier, scarred and thin, stood before a crowd on Earth and spoke with trembling voice. "We thought we were lost. We thought no one would hear us, but you came. You came when no one else would. You did not only fight for Valoran, you fought for what is right, and we will never forget it." His words were carried across the networks, reaching billions. They became a vow shared by both species. Valoran would rise again, and Earth would stand with them. But in secret, humanity's admirals prepared for the wars to come. Fleets were rebuilt, new weapons forged, colonies fortified. The Council would return in greater numbers, and next time the war would not be for one world. It would be for the galaxy itself. Still, in the quiet before the storm, there was pride. For the first time in history, humanity had taken its place among the stars, not as prey, not as servants, but as warriors who would not bow. The closing words of the first battle spread across every ship, every colony, every corner of human space. They betrayed Valoran. They thought Earth would stay silent. They were wrong. Humanity will never be silent again. And so the galaxy trembled, for a new age had begun, the age of humanity's vengeance.